So let's go ahead and talk about the topic at hand, folding ranges and bet sizing. First of all, it is available. The section from the book is directly available in the preview for the book on my website, Sixpeppers.com. So you can take a look at it, everything that I talked about in depth on that one section. And I'm going to go ahead and give those examples again and talk about them and give some new examples as well. So why is bet sizing so important? I'm going to go ahead and assume that you've watched some instructional videos and you know that there are a lot of different bet sizes, and it's very important to kind of make the choice of what bet size is right. And a lot of people definitely go with half pot C bets, 3x opens, very standard plays and standard raise sizes, because generally they're mass tabling and also generally they're probably in very similar situations. So it's kind of okay. It's probably pretty good, but I don't think it's going to be the most optimal to just always have the same kind of sizing going for every board texture, every opponent that you're against. You can change bet sizes for your advantage, and it will improve the profit from a bluff. It will improve the value from a value bet. It'll manipulate your opponent's ranges so you can essentially get them to fold out a few more hands like middle and bottom pair if you want them to, or you can get them to call with everything, or you can even sometimes induce bluff raises and stuff like that by changing and manipulating your bet sizing. I think that one of the best things about bet sizing is beating autopiloters, because these people see their whole cards and kind of associate that with their equity, and they can even be good players, but they're still looking at any bet really and their hand range and how are they going to make money even if they call like a minimum bet or a very small bet, and they will end up folding hands that actually have decent equity against your range, and that's great for you because that just increases profitability and it lowers your risk. And in the end, I do think that sometimes changing your bet sizing can really confuse your opponent and frustrate them, and it'll generally cause poor play from them and poor adjustments, and that's great for you. They'll make more errors versus you. So let's jump right into it. The first example that I give is from the book, and I talk about making a river bluff versus an opponent who basically, it's probably a situation where they've called a 3-barrel. They called a pre-flop raise, called a flop bet, called a turn bet, and now we're like, can we bluff this river? Will they fold enough? It's like, well, sometimes they have top pair. Sometimes they have a missed draw, like a straight draw or a flush draw or a combo draw. And sometimes they have a slow play full house that they didn't want to raise on a flop or turn for some reason. And in this instance, I've given them all flop sets that they slow play. And that's kind of one of the things you can do when looking at an example like this is just give kind of a worst case scenario. That's kind of the worst case scenario. They could also slow play like over pairs and stuff. So there are other worst case scenarios that could be out there, and there certainly is more to their range than this in a general situation. But to simplify, and for this example, this is the range I've assigned my opponent, and these are the hands that they have. So the 25 missed draws, the 48 top pairs, and the 9 full houses total 82 different combinations of hands. And I've elected to say that they'll fold all of their missed draws for a quarter of a pot size bet. You could even be less, but we'll just say for a quarter of a pot size bet, they'll fold all missed draws. They'll never bluff with them. They'll fold top pair if you overbet the pot, because I think it's kind of reasonable to assume that if you bet the flop and bet the turn, you do have a lot of folding equity for someone with just top pair on the river. If you were to make like an overbet shove or just some sort of overbet, especially, the weaker kickers like king jack, queen jack, and jack 10, I think those are definitely reasonable to assume that they would fold out. So I'm still grouping things into categories that don't quite align with what you might see in real life, but these groupings help understand the ideas better, make it easier for us to assess exactly what's going on. And then, of course, with their full houses, they would never fold to any amount. So after you bet 1.25 pot, which is basically the minimum amount needed to get them to full top pair, everything after that, you're just risking more money without getting any more folds. They'll still call the same 9 hands every time. So we want to take a look at our EV of our different bet sizes. First of all, the colors in white are your fold equity equations that you hopefully have learned and use every day. Yeah, right. Right. But, and then in red is this specific example fold equity equation. So let's go ahead and go over it. Here we have a sample size of 82, and we want to know, how many hands are they folding out of the 82, times by the pot, then 1 minus that percentage, it times by how much we bluff, which is L. So our bet amount, our opponent's equity is always 1, and our equity and the amount we win is always 0. So that simplifies this part of the equation to minus L.